If there's one thing we can be sure of, that is that we are all conscious, or rather, that experience exists. That is something that there's no doubt about. Now, if you look at my video 50 Shades of Sophie Gray, I attempt to demonstrate there, among other things, including the paranoia of certain authorities, that there will be something that you would miss in experience, even if everything you saw was black and white. If you knew of the existence of colour, you would learn something new when you went out into a colourful world from a black and white environment. Those are called qualia, and they are the subjective qualities of experience, and we cannot deny that those exist. Any model of philosophy of mind, of the mind-body problem, that doesn't take qualia into account is deficient in that way. Now, there is a physical property of matter known as magnetism, which works like this. This is not a very strong magnet. Now, this magnet happens to be made of iron. Other magnets can be made of rare earth metals. For example, the pickups on electric guitars are samarium magnets. And the strong magnets that you get in geomag sets are also, although they contain iron, they also contain other elements. But matter itself has a quality of magnetism to it. Any charged particle will have a magnetic field. And for that reason, for example, nuclear magnetic resonance imaging in medicine works because it exploits the magnetism of the particles in the human body. So, what I'm going to talk about today, very quickly, because this is Webcam Wednesday, is panpsychism, which is the idea that matter is intrinsically conscious. Now, it comes from the Greek words pan, meaning everything, and psyche, which means mind or soul. So it's the idea that the mind is an intrinsic property of all matter, or perhaps of all reality. It's also similar to hylozoism, which is the idea that life is everywhere. In other words, that the universe itself is alive. And the reason I believe in panpsychism is that I don't think there's any way of accounting for consciousness or the subjective experience of consciousness apart from through the being an intrinsic property of matter. So it's like magnetism in that sense. And the reason it's like magnetism in that sense is that whereas all matter has a magnetic field, not all matter is actually a magnet, because if it's arranged in a particular way, those things are lined up. Now, the reason that matter can be conscious is when there are certain arrangements of matter. For example, if you had a sufficiently complicated electronic machine, not a computer actually, I don't think, you would be absurd denying it consciousness if it behaved exactly like a human being and looked exactly like a human being. In fact, the look would actually be a form of prejudice. Now, the main reason people object to this idea is that it seems to be absurd. Now, I don't actually think that's a good reason for objecting to an idea, because that's just the argument from incredulous stare, as people say. And the reason I believe it, one of them, is that I used to be vegan, and I think that there's always an ulterior motive in denying consciousness to any matter, because you're going to say, okay, that's not conscious, I can treat it how I like. And I think that that is a good reason for believing in hylozoism or panpsychism. Now, it also has the consequence that if a tree falls in a forest, which is in this video here that I've linked to, it does make a sound, because there is no tree that is unheard or unexperienced. And I also think that there's a possibility that you could actually recast the whole of natural science so that biology is the basis and not physics. And so everything emerges from biology in the same way as in our own science, everything emerges from physics. So that's what I've got to say today. The reason I did it was because I thought I should do something beginning with P, because of pink yesterday, but that's another story. Now, what I want you to do now, if you like this video, is click here to subscribe. If you don't like this video, tell me why you didn't like it, and I will try and do better. See you tomorrow.